What's up everybody, Grant here, welcome back to the channel, and today I'm going to be doing my long overdue review of the OnePlus 3T. So I used the OnePlus 3T for over a month, primarily on my holiday vacation. It got a lot of usage, I took a lot of photos and videos, and I just never got around to doing the review on it due to resuming work and everything getting really busy when I got back. So I apologize for that, but we're going to go through it here today. So first things up is going to be performance, because if a device doesn't really perform very well, I don't know about you, I'm not going to use it. But like we all know, the OnePlus 3T with its Snapdragon 821 and 6 gigs of RAM, a lot of horsepower in this thing, and it really performs very well. So for me, I don't do a lot of high-end gaming. I do a lot of basic things like email, check my email, do social media, browse the web, check a few light apps, and that's primarily my typical usage. I'll play a game every now and then, but I'm not a hardcore gamer and I don't do a lot of intensive tasks. And the OnePlus 3T for that is obviously going to do very well. For gaming, you're going to be fine as well. It's just a real big power horse. And so if I'm just moving around the UI, especially, everything's fast and fluid. If I want to go in through a lot of my recent apps, it's not a problem. If we want to check through things like Twitter and try to scroll through our feeds, sometimes some devices will slow down, especially with all the content, inline content that Twitter now has. This thing just chews it up. As you can see here, everything is very fast, fluid scrolling. Other things like, Google Plus, fairly similar, a lot of content, and the cards tend to load fairly slowly sometimes, and some underpowered phones will it'll get really choppy. But with the OnePlus 3T and all that horsepower under the hood, of course things like this, it just plows through, fast and fluid. So as you can see here, just moving through things, multitasking, going through apps, all that stuff, flicking through things, moving around the UI, even around basic apps, it's not a problem. Performance is top notch here on the OnePlus 3T, just like it was on the OnePlus 3. No issues there. You'll be very pleased with the performance here. There's no lag, no stuttering at all. Moving on to the software experience. So this is where the OnePlus 3T shines for all you stock Android lovers. I like stock Android. I don't like heavy skins on top of Android. So the OnePlus 3T, just like the OnePlus 3, is very good about that. If you look here at the pull downs, very stock Android. Settings will be very stock Android as well. OnePlus has done a very good job of adding a few extra features on top of Android without really changing it around too much. Some fairly useful ones that a lot of people tend to like. So if we go through it here, first thing you'll notice is that I have a dark theme on, so it's a dark black background here to take advantage of the AMOLED display on the OnePlus 3T. AMOLED, if you don't know, does not light up any pixels that it doesn't need to. So anything that's in black, it won't light up and eat up battery life in displaying that. And so anytime you have a dark theme, it's always better. So if you go into display and themes, by default, it's going to be the traditional white background, something that's going to look a lot more like your normal stock Android there. But you can just go into that setting and hit dark mode, and you'll get that nice black background. It'll permeate through the settings menus and everything else. So it helps you save some battery life, as well as maybe some ease of readability for a lot of folks. You have other things like you can go through some accent colors. So if I change it around to purple here, you'll notice a lot of the accent colors around the UI and the icons will change. We'll put it back to blue or cyan. Default font size is something that's also, I found, you can always change around for improved readability. But beyond font size, display size is what's really important here. So for me, by default, it's at this size here. And if you'll notice, because of that, you have icon grids that are four wide. I prefer at least 5 wide to fit more icons on my home screen. And so if you just move it down to small, you'll notice you get that 5 wide back. So now I can move my icons around, a little bit more real estate on the home screen and some other screens as well. Going back into settings. So if you move everything smaller, your font will get smaller, which is where font size comes in. You can always go into the font size here and increase it if you want to. I just leave it there. Other things like ambient display. So if you turn on ambient display, when you receive notifications and the screen's off, it'll light up. And if you put proximity awake on with the screen off, if you kind of wave your hand over it, it should light up the screen. And this is where it's a little bit tricky. It doesn't always kind of work. Not like the Moto. The Moto ambient display is really good. You would just wave your hand over it. The sensor would pick it up and it would immediately light up. OnePlus 3 and the OnePlus 3T is a little bit trickier. So if you notice, few waves and it'll light it up. But whenever you get a notification, it'll automatically pop up that type of ambient display notification where it's not lighting up the whole screen, just pulses to let you know the notification came in. So that's there. I leave it off because despite putting it into pocket saving mode, so if I have it here, if you go into advanced, there's another setting here called pocket mode. So this will supposedly prevent accidental touch or fingerprint operations while your phone is in the pocket, so to prevent it from lighting up while it's in your pocket. I turned this on in hopes that the ambient display while I had that on wouldn't wake up my device in my pocket, but it still did, so I turned it off. You still have your pulse notification light at the top, so that's good enough for me for notifications. So for my usage, I turned off that ambient display. Pulse notification light, as you can see, is still there, so I use that to let me know when I have a notification. You can always customize the colors of that notification light, which is nice. So those are some nice custom display options there. You've got other things on customization like your alert slider. So that's this button on the side here, textured button on the side. If you'll notice, you can slide it to the middle and that'll give you your do not disturb. All the way down will turn your sound on. And all the way up is silent. So it's a nice little feature, kind of borrowed from the iPhone a little bit. A lot of people like it. I found that I don't use it as much because I normally wear a smartwatch, and so I always tend to keep my phone in silent, so I don't really have a use for that as much. But if you don't use a smartwatch and you like to have your sounds always on, but you want to turn them off every now and then if you're in a movie or if maybe you're at work or in a meeting, you can quickly slide that off. Quick way to do that. You can customize your alert slider here for kind of what the do not disturb settings would mean, some of your silent settings, etc. So that's what your alert slider customizations are. Other nice customizations are on buttons. So with buttons, you can turn on and off the backlight for the capacitive buttons down here on the left and right. You can swap the buttons. So by default, the back is on the left and the recent apps is on the right. You can swap that. So if you're coming from a Samsung phone, they have it opposite where recent apps is on the left, back is on the right. So if you like that and you're used to that, you can swap those functions around. You also have the on-screen nav button is if you want, so that's an option for you too. I turn them off because I'll rather use the physical home key with the two capacitive buttons to navigate around. It saves me some real estate, so I have a little bit more real estate on the display to work with. But if you like soft keys, that's there for you too. There is this nice press power button twice for camera, so I use that as a shortcut to the camera. So if your phone is off and you want to take a quick picture, you just double tap your power button, quick activate the camera, so it's really fast that way. So that's a nice feature there. There's also additional customization for your buttons. So if you see, you can customize what you do with your home button. So if you long press that, you can have it activate any one of these different actions. Similarly to double tap, if you double tap the home key, what does it do? I don't have that do anything. Your recents and back button, you can also customize the same way to a long press and double tap. You can do any of those same functions there. So if you want to customize either with a long press or a double tap of any of these keys down the bottom, you can do that to trigger a specific action there. So nice customization if you want there. I just turn them off because I don't want accidental touches or any of that stuff, and I don't feel I need those shortcuts. But if you want them, that's an option. Gesture support. So it does have very useful gestures. So you've got your double tap to wake, which I love. Double tap to home screen, double tap to sleep it. That's great. You can draw an O to open the camera there. So another way to get to your quick access to your camera if you want it. V for flashlight, so quick access to your flashlight there. V again to turn it off. Music control. So this is something that I never use, but I have it activated. If you're playing some music, if you draw 2 lines with your fingers, it'll pause it. If you draw left or right for previous and back from your locked home screen, you can skip tracks that way too. Flip to mute is pretty standard on a lot of phones. So if you get a phone call, you can just turn it over to mute the call that's coming in. And you got 3-finger screenshot support. So if you just swipe with 3 fingers, it'll take a screenshot for you. So a lot of useful gestures there. By default, I have them all on. It's up to you what you want to do, but to me, these are very useful features here. Status bar can allow you to control what comes up here on your status bar, obviously. So if you want to show battery percentage, which is very key, I keep that there. Even down to the style of battery icon that you want, bar, circle, or you don't want anything. And you can control all the icons that show up the top if you want. You can turn a lot of these off if you feel it's getting too cluttered. So that's a nice customization option there as well. The last thing I want to cover on software was that the OnePlus 3T has received the Android 7.0 NuGet update. So if we go into settings here, we can see that it is running Android 7.0. It's got the latest Oxygen OS 4.0.3 update with the December 1st security patch. So it's a couple months behind on security patches. It's now the end of February at the time of this recording, but at least you've got Android 7. And what does that really mean? It means you get a lot of the nice features that it comes with out of the box. So things like if I pull down here, I've got my quick toggles at the top. I also get bundle notifications. So instead of having application notifications just strung across all your notifications based on the time they came in, they're now bundled by application. So as you can see here, I've got a couple Hangouts messages. And also in 7.0, I have inline reply options for applications that support it. So I can quickly just reply to a message without actually ever going to the application itself. So that's a cool little feature there. Another really popular feature and useful feature I use all the time is split screen. So if I want to watch a YouTube video and maybe check my Twitter feed at the same time, I can do that. I can resize the windows, can swipe it away. And the thing that I noticed in this OnePlus 3 update for NuGet is that those were not enabled by default. So I had to go in here into my button settings and go into program the recents button to do those things. So split screen, I had to select open close split screen for that when I long press it, and I programmed my recents app for a double tap to go back to the last recent used app, because those are default behaviors in Android 7.0. So again, if I have an application, I double tap the recents. In traditional out-of-the-box Android 7.0, that goes back to the last application. So to get the split screen and the last application toggle from the recents button, I had to go into my settings here, go into the button settings and program those in. They weren't there by default. So if it doesn't look like it's working after you do your 7.0 update, just make sure you go into your settings and program those things in. So those are a lot of the useful features that you see in Android 7. Glad to see them here on the OnePlus 3T. Moving on to display, the OnePlus 3T has a 5.5-inch 1080p AMOLED display. So like we said before, it's really nice that the OnePlus 3T has a dark mode to really take advantage of AMOLED power saving technologies here. So it doesn't light up all these black pixels that you see here, really conserves on the battery power. The other thing in AMOLED is that it usually has really bright, vibrant, punchy colors, and the OnePlus 3T is no exception. You can see here the reds are very red. You have some nice blues and greens. So very punchy colors in general. I personally like that. You may not. So if you don't really like the vibrancy as much, you can actually go here into settings, display settings, and screen calibration. By default, it's going to be on that kind of AMOLED punchy color. You can go into more of an sRGB, which gets more natural tones, or you can actually go and customize it to how warm or cold you want. So if you want it on the cooler side, like more like an LCD type of a look, you can do that. If you want a much warmer, richer tone, you can do that, but I'll just leave it on default, and it looks great to me. The other thing that's important to display, at least to me, is the brightness level. So how bright does this get? And so if we go in here, we take it off of auto bright, we can see it gets really, really bright, really too bright for the camera to even pick up. But the brightness is really nice. Outdoor visibility is really good because of it. It'll go to 100% most times in direct sunlight, but when you have direct sunlight shining on it, readability is actually very good. You don't really have to strain or bring it really close to look at it. Outdoor visibility, even in direct sunlight, very good on this. Gets more than bright enough. The display panel here, even though it's quote-unquote only 1080p, it looks very good. Colors are very rich and vibrant with that AMOLED, and brightness is very good as well. Not going to have problems with outdoor visibility. So overall, really nice display, really nice colors, great brightness levels. You're not going to have any problems there. Moving on to the design of the OnePlus 3T, it's exactly the same as the OnePlus 3. It's got that all-metal unibody design here. You've got the protruding camera bump in the back, so you can see that. I believe it's made out of sapphire glass, so the lens really shouldn't scratch. But if you get yourself a case to level out that bump, you'll be okay. But just if you like to go caseless, just be aware of that. There is a bump. Some may or may not like that. You've got the split buttons, so you got the volume rocker on one side and you've got the power button on the other. Again, some people may not like that because traditionally you've got the power button and the volume rocker is above that. I like having them on either side, so it's easier to feel for and reach for. You know, power button's on the right, volume on the left, and they're both equally positioned. And so you're not having to slide your fingers all the way up to reach for a power button. So it's really right there for your fingers, power button, volume rocker, easily in reach. You've got your alert slider like we talked about, deeply textured there, very nice. You've got your metal back here with your dual antenna lines. Some people may not like the dual antenna line design, but it's got to go somewhere. Apple started wrapping around the top, but this really never bothered me. Bothersome, but just something to keep in mind if you don't like that design. You've got the OnePlus logo there. I think that's really nice. Very simple logo, looks really classy. You've got this new gunmetal color in the 3T. So it's a little bit of a darker color than the OnePlus 3's, kind of grayish, silverish color. Looks really nice here to me. You've also got the fingerprint scanner in the front here. It's just a scanner, not a button, so you just have to press your finger and it unlocks. So it's very fast. As you can see there, just tapping on it, letting go, it pops right up. So a very good fingerprint scanner there, very responsive, very accurate. You've also got your speaker grills, one USB-C port on the bottom, and your headphone jack. At the top, there's nothing. So it's just a really nice all-metal unibody design. So if you're into unibody designs, you're gonna like this. It's really solid, feels really well built. It's got an ever so slight curve to the back, not a huge one, but a slight one you can see on the edges there. So it rests in the palm of my hand fairly nicely. So I got really no complaints there on that. Some people don't like that they went away from the sandstone back. So this is the OnePlus 2. They were originally known for the sandstone back on the 1 and the OnePlus 2 there. A lot of people like this. I think it's because it's rugged, it's durable. It made you feel like you had a case when you didn't have one. So if you like to go caseless, but you wanted something more durable on the back, I think that's what people liked. And on the OnePlus 3T, they went for that all-metal look. I personally like this all-metal look. I like the Luna on the back, but some people didn't like that. Just something to keep in mind. They do sell, if I can reach for it, they do sell these style shells. So if you put this on the back, it does a couple different things. It changes up the look of your phone without adding a lot of bulk, gets rid of that camera protrusion. This is the carbon fiber, but it also comes in like this sandstone type of texture. So if you like that sandstone, that's one way to kind of get it back on the OnePlus 3T. But me personally, if I can get it off, I really like this all metal unibody build on the OnePlus 3T. So that's going to do it for design. If you're into the all metal unibody designs, you're going to like that. It's very well built, very solid. Also very thin, as you can see there. So if you're into the thinness, it really helps with the in-pocket feel. I really give this thing high marks for design. It looks really good. Moving on to battery life, the OnePlus 3T comes with a 3,400 milliamp hour battery. And so what does that mean? That just means all day battery life, at least for me. To get me through my day, I usually need at least 3 to 4 hours of screen on time. Amazing for me would be anything over 6 hours. And with the OnePlus 3T, I'm getting anywhere between 4.5 hours to the max I got was 5 hours and 45 minutes. So I usually get a little bit less than most people, but that is still really great for me. All that really means for me is that I don't have to worry about topping up at all during the day. I can get through my whole day, get through all night, and not worry about having to put this thing on the charger. So here's some quick screenshots. So this day I got 5 hours and 22 minutes. There you can see a steady decline on my battery there. I got another 4 hours 51 minutes here. And you can see that doze feature working, flatlining in the morning when I really wasn't using it. This is probably a work day for me. Here it is at just over 4 hours. I was probably using it pretty heavy this day. Here's 5 hours and 44 minutes. And this is probably the best that I got on any kind of day. So you can kind of see the battery life will vary depending on my usage. But like I said, anywhere between 4 hours and 5 hours and 45 minutes. So for me, that's very good, and that just translates into all-day battery life. I don't have to worry about getting closer to charge or anything when I'm using this thing, and that's very good, peace of mind. Some phones, you know, if it gets you 3 hours, 4 hours, you're monitoring your usage, you're worrying about, do I have to be carrying a battery pack, or when am I going to have to top up? For me, at least with the OnePlus 3T, I never had to worry about that. Peace of mind through the whole day, knowing no matter what I do on this thing, I'm going to get through my whole day, my whole night, and I'll probably get into the next day. But for me, unless this thing gets solid, easy 2 days of battery life, I'm topping up at night so that I'm charged up and ready to go for the next day with that same peace of mind. So this won't get me through 2 full days, but it definitely will get me through more than 1 day. I charge up just so that I don't have to worry about the next day, but almost 6 hours of screen on time for me, all that means is all day battery life, and having that peace of mind during the day to not have to worry about topping up is fantastic. Okay, so let's talk cameras. The OnePlus 3T's rear camera is a 16 megapixel shooter with f/2.0 aperture. It comes with phase detection as well as autofocus. Optical image stabilization, or OIS, is on board as well. You've got that LED flash, and it records up to 4K video. The front-facing camera on this thing is also a 16 megapixel camera with the same f/2.0 aperture, and it shoots up to 1080p video. So I've taken a lot of pictures and shot a lot of video on this. I took it on my vacation, so I definitely took a lot of pictures and video. I posted up a camera sample video, so you can go and check all those photos and videos out, judge the quality for yourself. But my overall impression was that I came away pretty impressed. I really thought the camera was going to be the weak point on the OnePlus 3T, just because a lot of mid-range priced phones, really, if they have any weak points, it's going to be around the camera. But the OnePlus 3T honestly exceeded my expectation. In good light, it shot good photos as expected, but even in low light, it performed pretty well for both photos and video. The one negative that I can say about the camera is that it, for video audio quality, is really bad. So if you depend on your camera for shooting a lot of video and you need good quality audio, you're not going to get it here. The audio is pretty poor, but fortunately, the picture quality is pretty good and audio can be fixed. So if you really need good audio and you depend on video, you can always get an external mic and plug it in, and that'll clear up your audio problem. But by default, just the onboard video audio quality is really not good, and it picks up way more ambient noises than you really want. So again, if you really depend on that video audio quality, it's not going to be here on this one. You're going to want an external mic. We can take a quick look at the camera settings here. So here's what the camera looks like. If we take a quick, you can hit that icon or you can swipe in from the left. It'll show you all your different shooting modes. So you got time lapse, slow motion, photo, video. It's got a manual mode as well as panorama. So if you look in the manual mode, you've got control over some of your different options there. You've got some basic settings here for your aspect ratio and photo quality, as well as a timer. And if you want to toggle on and off your grid, you got that. But again, when you go back into photo, you got things like toggling on and off for HDR or putting into auto. You've got your flash toggles there. So a very streamlined, simple interface. Nothing too fancy, but you've got all your basic shooting modes there. Again, if you want to really see the camera's performance, go check out that camera samples video that I posted. I'll link a card up at the top here for you to check that out. So now moving on to audio quality here on the OnePlus 3T. It's got a single bottom firing speaker there, but it does get pretty loud. So to give you a quick idea of what that sounds like, we can do a quick audio test at full volume here. So this is pretty loud to me, and it's very good for just that single bottom firing speaker there. So that's pretty good for just that single bottom firing speaker. Just for a point of reference, here's an HTC 10. It's got dual firing speakers at the top and at the bottom. But just to give you an audio reference point, here's the HTC 10 at full volume. And if you go back to the OnePlus 3T, I think it's almost just as loud as that HTC 10 with the dual speakers. Could even be a little bit louder. So there you can see it's a single bottom firing speaker, but it does get really loud. Just as a quick comparison to the HTC 10, I thought it just got pretty much just as loud here. So I know audio is tough to judge over video, but just want to give you a reference point to that. Single bottom firing speaker, pretty loud on the OnePlus 3T. So also with the OnePlus 3T, we've got, let me go ahead and plug in some headphones here. So it does have that headphone jack at the bottom, yay for the headphone jack, but it does have some audio enhancements here. So if we go into settings and we go into sound, at the very bottom here, we've got audio tuner. So if we click on that with some headphones plugged in, you're going to notice some benefits here. So it says audio switch. This basically just turns on the equalizer. And so it also has the ability to set some earphone types. So if you got some of the OnePlus headphones, you can do that. It, I guess, has some tuning for some certain JBL headphones as well. But you can also just put on general enhancement because I don't have the OnePlus earphones. And then you can go ahead and pick from any preset EQ settings, or you can just preset any kind of a custom setting you want. And so this actually does improve the audio quality when you're listening over headphones. And listening over headphones is actually pretty good. It's not going to be anywhere near the HTC 10, which is probably the best headphone listening experience you've got on a smartphone today, because it has an internal DAC plus an amp. And nothing probably beats that HTC 10 headphone listening experience, but the OnePlus 3T is actually pretty good. And it's nice that it's got some audio tuning and EQ settings that you can utilize to really enhance that audio experience. So listening on through headphones on the OnePlus 3T, internal audio is also pretty good. Next are on calling and messaging. So the OnePlus 3T, while it does not have micro SD card expansion, it does have and offer dual SIM support. So quickly here you can see dual SIM tray. I've got my T-Mobile SIM card here. So if you need dual SIM capabilities, that's a nice thing to have. We'll go and plug that back in. And so calling and messaging here on this thing has been really good. I haven't had any problems with calls, sending texts, none of that. Calls have been sounding pretty good. Obviously, it's going to depend on your signal strength and your reception and your service provider, but calls have sounded just fine. No one's had any complaints. So the other benefit that the OnePlus 3T has is that it does support Wi-Fi calling. So if we go into our settings, SIM and network, we'll see here it does support voice over LTE and it does support Wi-Fi calling. So if you activate those, it'll show up at the top here. Wi-Fi calling does work. I've tried it out. I don't have much of any problems at all. Voice over LTE as well. So there you go. You can see up there, voice over LTE. Calls will also be made over Wi-Fi when Wi-Fi calling is enabled. So if voice over LTE enhancements and Wi-Fi calling enhancements is very important to you because you live in an area where you're not getting very good cell reception indoors, in home, or in the office, but you do have strong Wi-Fi, Wi-Fi calling is supported depending on your carrier, obviously, but it does work here for me with T-Mobile. All right, so time to wrap it up. So quick summary and recap. Some of the pros: it has great performance. It's got a nice software and light software experience with pretty much stock Android with just a few additional useful customizations. It's got that nice metal unibody design and a very solid construction. It's got great all-day battery life, a nice camera even in low light, both front and back. It's got a loud bottom-firing speaker with some nice audio tuning options if you plug in your headphones, and it does support Wi-Fi calling and voice over LTE, which is very important to a lot of people. Now, things that I didn't really like and some of the cons are more around poor video audio quality. So when you're shooting video, the audio quality is not going to be very good. But like I said, plugging in an external mic could be an option for you to help clear up that audio problem. It's only got a single firing speaker, so although it is loud, it would have been nice to have front firing stereo speakers. Other things to note that I didn't like in our cons is that it does not support wireless charging. So I know that's important to a lot of folks for convenience in charging, and it is not water resistant. So there is no IP rating here. There is no water resistance. So be careful if you're in the rain or if you're going to drop this thing in a pool. There is none of that waterproofing or water resistance here built in. So overall, I really like the OnePlus 3T at $440. I think it's one of the best mid-range phones of 2016, and it's one of the best phones, overall phones period, still here in early 2017. So I would definitely recommend the OnePlus 3T if your needs and wants fall into a lot of the pros that I talked about, and if you can live with a lot of the cons that I talked about. And so hopefully all the details that I've gone through here today really help you in making your purchase decision around the OnePlus 3T. And if you have any other questions or comments, drop them down below and I'll try to answer them as best as I can. And as always, thanks for watching.